So the current metal scene right now is kicking so much ass. We have so many different bands, we have so many new subgenres, but I feel like a lot of the new people who are coming into the scene haven't heard these classic albums. So here's 10 genre breaking albums you need to hear if you love modern metal. I think a lot of these albums went under a lot of people's radars. They're a little bit more niche, but they did some very, very cool things. So if you're into stuff like Spirit Box, the Callous Cowboys, or like the genre blending from Sleep Token, these are albums that have done similar things 20 years ago that you might enjoy now. Before we get started, this list is not in a top 10 order. Also, the music clips from these albums are cut to avoid copyright. Please listen to the songs and albums yourself to hear how it's supposed to be listened to. So the first album on this list goes to a metalcore post-hardcore band that helped define emo actually in the early 2000s. They wrote an emo record that went mega popular for them, but then they did a 180 on their next record and went really dark, progressive, and heavy. Under Oath, Define the Great Line is still one of the best records in this scene. The album starts with this iconic riff. Production still sounds good. It does not sound outdated, but the songs also are quite progressive in their structures. Point A to point B structures. The most popular song, Right on the Walls, was super popular for the band, but it doesn't even have a chorus. What makes this album genre bending or pushing or breaking is that they came from emo post-hardcore, very like poppy, hooky, kind of whiny vocals, right? But then they did something that felt inspired by Converge, inspired by more post-metal textures, and very progressive too. Even though this wasn't considered prog at the time, I feel like in today's standard, you would definitely call this prog metalcore. But back in the day, these structures were actually kind of the norm. Now, one of my personal favorites is one of the heaviest songs this band has ever written, and that is Returning Empty-Handed. Now, what's cool is this song transitions into an almost instrumental post-metal song too. It shows all the different genres that they're working with rather than just sticking to like a screamo sound. It really shocked the fans and it has held up incredibly well and is absolutely worth a listen. It's influenced bands like Fit for a King, Silent Planet, and many others. Number 9 is from a band who is still one of the craziest bands that has ever graced this scene. If you like Callous Cowboys, if you like the more experimental mathcore stuff today, this band basically started it all. Dillinger Escape Plan, but I'm going to shout out the album Ironworks. A lot of people will say Calculating Infinity, which came out in 1997, which shook up the hardcore scene. It was technical, it had influence of jazz and other things. It was crazy, but Ironworks I think is an easier record to get into. It's actually my personal favorite because they got the rock songs like Milk Lizard. course, the mathcore shit like this. But then they have these weird experimental tracks too that show just how experimental it can be. You've probably heard the name Dillinger Escape Plan before, but if you haven't checked them out and you want something challenging, these guys are definitely worth a listen. They're one of the most influential bands. Also, if you listen to Better Lovers and you never listen to Dillinger, like, what are you doing?
How far are you willing to reach? Will you cover in your conviction?
The next band I want to talk about goes to the Djent Godfathers. And now, I'm not talking about Meshuggah, even though Meshuggah is definitely like the Djent Godfathers, like key players in it, and then Periphery kind of popularized it. But I feel like this band is also part of that Djent revolution. And for people in the know, they know how influential and important this band is, even though they're so incredibly underrated. But I have to talk about Sixth, Death of a Dead Day, which came out in 2006 and still sounds so forward thinking today. The guitar work is so unhinged and it's so technical. The guitar riffage where you hear an open note and then some finger tapping runs in between the bun. Look, I sound goofy as hell. These guys were the ones that started. I asked Pin, the guitarist, when I bumped into him at Download, if they were the founders of that kind of guitar playing style, and he says he thinks he was. Between the fat open notes and the technical guitar tapping and then these crazy time signatures, these guys are so forward thinking with guitar playing. Also, the drumming is absolutely bonkers, but also they have two vocalists going back and forth. Periphery actually used their vocalist Mikey in the song Reptile, so you might be familiar with the name there.
Do you think you know who you are? Did you think you had it all worked out well?
So this album is a weird hybrid of metalcore, prog metal, mathcore, and almost has like a Korn influence in some of the vocals at times. Definitely one of the craziest album experiences ever. And again, it still sounds good today, 20 years later. This album has also influenced people like Mike Strainer of Spiritbox too, and there's videos of him playing these songs on guitar. The next band I want to talk about is one of the most influential bands in metalcore and even like hardcore a little bit too. And you've probably heard their name, but Misery Signals. I feel like a lot of the Revivalcore bands that we're seeing are influenced by Misery Signals. Counterparts, for example, say they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Misery Signals leading the way. Now, the album I want to shout out is actually not Of Malice, which, you know, it tends to be one of the most popular albums, especially for like emotional hardcore kind of stuff. But Controller from 2008, I think is such a cool, progressive kind of record. This album took those ideas from earlier Misery Signals, but brought it into a more progressive kind of world. I also think it was produced by Devin Townsend, which is pretty cool. But if you like the brutal metalcore that can be emotive too, but also mixes in these beautiful, clean passages, the songs like Reset are absolutely fantastic. The album also starts off with Nothing with this sick guitar riff too. If you like prog metalcore and you've never heard Misery Signals, I think Controller is a great record. And it still sounds good today. All these records I'm talking about still sound good in 2026. Next album is from one of my favorite bands of all time. I've talked about them so many times, but if you've never listened to their music, I think this is probably the best album to get into. Protest the Hero with Fortress is still one of the craziest records I've ever heard and has helped influence my taste today. But if you're a guitar nerd and you absolutely love just guitar riffs, some of my favorite riffs of all time exist on this record. There is so many memorable riffs, and then also the vocals have like the Iron Maiden feel. They go into punk, prog. Essentially, it's Dream Theater if they went a little bit more metalcore with like Iron Maiden kind of style and some punk like Propaganda. There's a lot of different influences at play, but maybe start with the song Blood Meat. Like who just licks a couch and walks away. Anyway, Protest Hero is a really influential band. One example that I can think of is Ryan Sue of Polaris. Rest in peace. Still one of the best guitarists that we've ever had. But I remember back in the day watching guitar covers of him doing some Protest the Hero kind of stuff. Also, Sheet Happens is a guitar tablature company that you might recognize, especially for the guitar players out there. The co-owner of that company is actually Luke Hoskin of Protest the Hero. So the guitarist, songwriter to Protest the Hero, his company is actually Sheet Happens. So maybe you bought the books if you're a guitar player. But yeah, I think Fortress is a great starting point. And if you love riffs, holy shit, check out the album, okay? So many good riffs on that record. The next record that is genre bending and just very different is the most niche record here. Very few people have heard this record. It's a band from Italy that has only dropped one record, but holy shit, it's still one of the best albums I've ever heard. I've talked about it before, but if you've never heard them or heard this record, do yourself a favor and check out Amia Venera Landscape, The Long Procession. Essentially take a lot of post-hardcore, metalcore, but give it a bunch of post-metal. I feel like there's also maybe a Under Oath to Find the Great Line kind of influence at play, but also you're taking Misery Signals influence, but then you're adding some Sigur Rós, kind of like post-rock and metal. There's a beauty amidst the chaos. There's a lot of ambient piano work. The songs can go up to 10, 11 minutes long. It can be technical, it can be heavy, but also incredibly beautiful. The vocals kind of remind me of Dallas Green of City and Color at times too.
To find myself.
A crazy forward-thinking record. Unfortunately, it's the only record that we've had from these guys, but it takes so many influence from so many different subgenres that it's hard to call it just metalcore or just post-hardcore. But yes, one of the most beautiful, breathtaking journeys I've had listening to a record ever. The next album I want to talk about is one of the most important records ever. I seriously think, and will die on the hill, that this record has influenced so much of the scene that we listen to today. A lot of people talk about Converge Jane Doe, which is very influential, but I would actually argue this album is more important. This is not metalcore. This isn't a metal record, but this is Refused with The Shape of Punk to Come, which is technically a post-hardcore record. But goddamn, some of these songs go harder than a lot of modern metal today. Go!
Con la fortissima canzone Refuse Party Program.
You might even know the song New Noise, which has been featured in so many things, including The Bear and a lot of scenes. But what they did was something crazy. The band was about to break up, but they decided to go all out on their last record, taking influence from everything, whether it's punk, jazz, metal. Some of these songs are like 7 minutes long and just so genre breaking that it helped really change and shape the punk to come. Like, it's honestly insane how bold of a title that is, but how true it is. It influenced bands like Linkin Park.
Refused. I don't think there would be a Linkin Park without Refused. Like the sound of the guitars and the drums, like the live band sound of this album was one of the things that when we were recording and when we were mixing, I remembered like being Hybrid Theory to this album and being like, it needs to like have as much energy as this album does.
Even influenced Paramore, where Haley sings a reference to a Refused song in Born for This. Refused, The Shape of Punk to Come, I think is an all-time classic.
Oh yeah, that's a fairly untouchable record.
But Thrice, yeah, influenced bands like Fit for a King, Silent Planet, and so many others. Kind of like Under Oath. But Under Oath was also influenced by Refused. This is such a grandfather record. I really look at them at the top and then have so many different branches. Sure, there's like Dillinger, there's Converge, but to me, I think The Shape of Punk to Come is one of the most influential records to the core scene, even though it's not technically metalcore. So I found this while editing, but fellow reactor Critical Reactions has this in his thumbnail, which exactly proves my point. Another really weird album, and it's unsettling. This one has the least amount of core in it, but it's a metal record through and through, and that is Djent with Macedon back in 2011. I recommend checking out the Forte version, you know, the remixed version, but still, you probably know Djent, you probably know their influence. These guys have changed guitar playing, especially when it comes to the THALL movement. But back in 2011, these guys were doing this long time ago. So I feel like I don't need to explain myself too much with this record because I think the THALL influence is so apparent in the scene. People know of Djent. But I think it's worth going back to 2011. Songs like Dagger are still some of the best songs that these guys have ever written. Now, shout out if you remember songs like Omni Slash and Shiver. The next album I want to talk about is one of my favorite records of all time. It is such a genre-pushing record because these guys were essentially part of the metalcore scene, almost deathcore scene at times because they were really, really heavy, but you could tell they were branching into prog. And holy shit, this album is them totally getting into the prog world. This is Between the Buried Me with Colors. Now, you might know the band name, but Colors was their first actual foray into prog because this album flows as one giant song. It's broken up into like 8 pieces, but yeah, it is one giant song. It is so technical. It's a progressive metal landmark. From death metal to jazz. To metalcore and has breakdowns. Also has one of the most iconic guitar solos ever to grace the scene, but you have to listen to the entire album and get to the end of the record to hear this monumental guitar solo. People talk about how shocked they get about Sleep Token blending a bunch of genres, but I'm thinking Between the Bury Me did this a long time ago, and many bands before this too. It is so ambitious. It's like Dream Theater gone metalcore and almost death metal. It's not an easy listening experience. Between the Bury Me has always been a polarizing kind of band, but for people where it clicks, oh, it fucking clicks. The guitar work, the drumming, the musicianship is just insane. Basically one of the proggiest metalcore albums ever. Lastly, the last album I want to talk about is one of my favorite albums ever. Now, this is probably one of the more conventional metalcore records, even though it is a little bit genre bending, and that is The Human Abstract with Nocturne. Came out in 2006, and it essentially is metalcore gone classical. The guitar work from AJ Minute is incredible, and he is still one of the best guitarists that has ever graced the scene. I know guitarists like Charlie Robbins influenced by AJ Minute, but I've also seen Miles from Ice Nine Kills liking AJ's posts, even Adam D'Amico from Lawrence Shore liking some of his videos too. So if you like the idea of like neoclassical guitar work, odd time signatures, emotive vocals that switch between these nice cleans and then these harsh vocals too. Album that has breakdowns and so many sweeps. If you love guitar sweeps, holy shit. This album has so many sweeps. But Human Abstract, definitely one of the most underrated bands. They've only written 3 albums, but people are still longing for them because classical music has never sounded so good with metal. Well, actually, Disembodied Tyrant is doing a good job. But these guys are definitely still at the top for me when it comes to mixing classical music and just like metal ideas.
These are the top 10 most disappointing games of 2025.
But yeah, those are 10 albums that I absolutely love and I feel like help define the scene that we are currently in. They're pretty niche, but even if it's not the most popular in terms of, you know, streams, views, and or fan bases, I think people who know these albums have definitely shaped the music that we listen to, whether it's like Spiritbox, Polaris, Fit for a Cane, Silent Planet, right? A lot of these bands that we listen to today, I've heard them talk about these bands before. So again, even though it's niche, your favorite band's favorite band could be some of these bands over here with these records. Hopefully you discovered something new here. So guys, Comment down below, spice up my life. What did you think about this list? What is missing on this list? What are some albums that you think help define the genre that we are currently in and listening to? I'd love to do a part 2 because these are only 10 albums. There's definitely way more than this. So let me know in the comments down below. But on that, thank you for tuning in. Till next time, peace.